Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Esoteric Nexus. Today, we're venturing into a territory that many fear, many misunderstand, and yet, it is a journey almost every seeker of truth eventually embarks upon. A journey often whispered about in hushed tones, described with metaphors of descent and dissolution. I'm talking about the dark night of the soul. Have you ever felt it? That chilling, isolating sensation that the very ground beneath your feet has crumbled. The world you once knew, the self you believed yourself to be, dissolving into dust. Perhaps it wasn't a sudden cataclysm, but a slow, agonizing erosion, a sense of meaning draining from everything you once held dear. Maybe you woke up one day and looked in the mirror, not recognizing the stranger staring back, a stranger hollowed out, adrift, burdened by an unbearable weight of confusion and despair. It's the feeling of being utterly lost, not just physically, but existentially. A profound emptiness, a deep spiritual ache that no external comfort can soothe. You try to grasp at familiar anchors. Relationships, career, old passions, but they slip through your fingers like sand. This isn't just sadness. It's a cosmic unraveling, a profound sense of death before you even know what might be born. It's the beginning of a journey no one truly prepares you for, because it defies logical explanation. It's a call from the deepest core of your being, a desperate plea for transformation. And what I want to share with you today is what no one truly tells you about this sacred, terrifying descent. This initial phase, the pain or the breakdown, is not merely a difficult period in your life. It is the ego's profound crisis, a cataclysmic shattering of your established sense of self and reality. Imagine you've built a magnificent sandcastle your entire life. It's been your refuge, your identity, your carefully constructed persona. You've embellished it with achievements, relationships, beliefs, and a certain self-image. Then suddenly at first a tide begins to rise. A seemingly innocuous wave washes over it. Then another until suddenly, the very foundation of your castle begins to crumble. This isn't just a part of it breaking. It's the whole structure starting to give way. What does this feel like? It's an overwhelming, pervasive sense of dread. You might experience profound sadness that defies explanation, a constant ache in your chest. Anxiety becomes a relentless companion, a knot in your stomach that never loosens. For some, it manifests as a suffocating numbness, an inability to feel joy or connection, as if a thick veil has descended over your senses. You might find yourself grappling with intense anger, a raw, primal rage directed at the unfairness of life, at yourself, at others, or even at a higher power you once trusted. The confusion is paramount. You might ask yourself, why is this happening to me? I've done everything right. Your past coping mechanisms suddenly fail. Things that once brought you comfort or a sense of purpose now feel utterly meaningless. Hobbies feel hollow, conversations feel superficial. Even the most cherished relationships can feel distant and unfulfilling. Not because they've changed, but because you have changed, or rather, you are changing in a way that disconnects you from your old ways of relating. This breakdown often manifests physically. Persistent fatigue, even after adequate sleep, becomes your constant companion. You might experience unexplained aches and pains, digestive issues, or chronic illnesses that doctors struggle to diagnose or treat effectively. Your sleep patterns might be utterly disrupted. Either profound insomnia or an overwhelming desire to sleep and escape. Your body, in its wisdom, is mirroring the internal upheaval. It is sending you urgent signals that something fundamental is shifting within. Socially, the impact is immense. You begin to isolate yourself, either intentionally because you feel misunderstood, or unintentionally as the energy required for social interaction becomes unbearable. Friends and family might offer well-meaning advice like, just snap out of it, or think positive, which only deepens your sense of alienation. How can you explain to them that you are not just sad, but that your entire internal architecture is being dismantled? You feel like a ghost moving through a vibrant world, utterly alone in your suffering. The mask you once wore, the persona that presented a confident, capable self to the world, feels too heavy, too fragile, or simply irrelevant. You just can't pretend anymore. This phase is marked by what Jung might call an ego death, or a disintegration of the ego consciousness. Your ego, which is your conscious mind, your sense of identity, your worldview, is undergoing an immense assault. It's being stripped away layer by layer not to destroy you, but to make space for something far more expansive and authentic. The old self, the one built on societal expectations, conditioned beliefs and past wounds, is dying. And this death is excruciating precisely because you don't yet know what will be born in its place. There's only the void, the liminal space between what was and what is yet to be. You might feel a profound sense of meaninglessness, a nihilistic whisper suggesting that nothing matters, that all your efforts are in vain. This isn't just depression. It's an existential crisis. It's the universe forcing you to confront the illusion of control, the impermanence of all external structures, and the absolute necessity of turning inward. The pain is not a punishment. It is a catalyst. It is the fire that begins the alchemical process, burning away everything that is not truly you, leaving behind the raw material for genuine transformation. But in the midst of it, all you feel is the scorching heat, the tearing apart. You feel broken, irreparably so. And the terrifying truth is you are, but broken in the way that seeds break open to grow, in the way mountains erode to reveal diamonds. You just don't know that yet. All you feel is the crushing weight of the breakdown. As the pain of the breakdown intensifies, a natural human instinct kicks in. The desperate search for relief, for a way out, for an explanation. This is the search phase, which often feels like the spiral because initially, your efforts to escape often pull you deeper into the very void you're trying to flee. Having experienced the crumbling of your inner world, your conscious mind, the ego, instinctively tries to fix it, using the very tools that no longer serve you. You might throw yourself into self-help books, devouring every philosophy, every spiritual teaching hoping for a quick fix, a mantra that will magically dissolve the suffering. You attend workshops, try new diets, change your job, even relocate, believing that a change in external circumstances will somehow heal the internal wound. You might seek therapy, but find yourself intellectualizing your pain, discussing it rather than truly feeling it, because the raw vulnerability is still too terrifying. The ego, in its desperate attempt to regain control, will try to project the source of its discomfort outward. You might blame your past relationships, your parents, your job, society, or even spiritual leaders. If only X happened, I'd be okay. This projection, as Jung taught us, is a defense mechanism where we attribute our own unacceptable thoughts, feelings, or impulses to another person or situation. In this phase, you are projecting your inner chaos onto the external world, convinced that if you just rearrange the furniture of your life, the profound emptiness will vanish. This outward search, however, often leads to a deepening spiral of frustration and despair. Each failed attempt to find an external solution only reinforces the feeling of helplessness. You might find yourself chasing old comforts, but they feel hollow. You might try to numb the pain with distractions, excessive work, compulsive shopping, substance use, or even spiritual bypassing, where you use positive affirmations and spiritual jargon to avoid the very real, painful emotions that need to be processed. You might say it's all love and light, while your inner world is screaming in agony. This isn't genuine healing. It's a sophisticated form of avoidance. The frustration builds. You feel like you're running a marathon in quicksand. You've tried everything and nothing works. This is the crucial, painful realization. There is no external escape. The answers are not out there. They are in here. But the in here feels like a terrifying abyss. This is where the spiral truly tightens. Because the avenues you once relied on for comfort or escape are now dead ends. The desperation intensifies, and with it often a profound sense of loneliness. Even if you're surrounded by people, you feel an unbridgeable chasm between your inner torment and their apparent normalcy. This phase is essential, though agonizing, because it exhausts your ego's habitual coping mechanisms. It forces you to hit rock bottom in your external search. You've tried to bypass the spiritual lessons, to intellectualize the emotional pain, to escape the confrontation with your deepest self. But the universe, in its relentless wisdom, keeps shutting down every external door until the only path left is the one leading inward. This is not about failing to find solutions. It's about realizing that the solutions you're looking for are not found in the external world at all. This spiral is also a time when the unconscious mind, in its benevolent attempt to guide you towards individuation, will begin to stir more forcefully. Dreams might become vivid, disturbing, and symbolic, pulling you towards uncomfortable truths. Synchronistic events might occur, seemingly random coincidences that feel too significant to ignore, nudging you towards a new direction, a new book, a new person, or a new insight. But often, in the throes of the spiral, these subtle whispers are dismissed or misinterpreted, absorbed into the overall confusion. The resistance to turning inward is strong because the ego fears its own dissolution. It sees the deep dive into the self as a threat to its very existence, rather than a necessary transformation. This is the point where the journey becomes truly internal. The outside world has nothing left to offer you in terms of true solace or answers. You've reached the end of the road of external seeking, and it is precisely at this point of utter depletion and despair that the potential for true awakening emerges, because there is literally nowhere else to go but within. The seemingly fruitless search has served its purpose to show you, unequivocally, that the healing must begin and end in the sacred chambers of your own soul. After the exhaustion of the breakdown and the futility of the external search, something pivotal begins to shift. This is the awakening, not a sudden burst of light, but often a quiet, terrifying realization. This has to come from within. It's the moment you finally stop running and turn to face the darkness, knowing with a deep, unsettling certainty that the monster isn't outside. It's within. This is the beginning of the crucial work with your shadow. What is this shadow that Carl Jung spoke so profoundly about? It's not simply evil or bad. It's the unconscious aspect of the personality that the conscious ego does not identify with. It's everything you've repressed, disowned, or denied about yourself. Aspects deemed unacceptable by your family, society, or even by your own internalized beliefs. It holds not only your fears, shame, and unacknowledged wounds, but also your unexpressed creativity, your authentic power, and your hidden potential. It's the parts of you that dwell in the dark corners of your psyche, waiting to be seen, acknowledged, and integrated. In this phase, you are forced to confront these hidden aspects. The breakdown has stripped away your defenses, making it impossible to continue projecting or denying. You might find yourself flooded with uncomfortable emotions you've suppressed for years. Raw anger, not just irritation, but a deep primal rage about injustices, boundaries violated, or suppressed self-expression. Profound shame, the feeling that you are fundamentally flawed or unworthy, often stemming from early childhood experiences. Burning envy, acknowledging desires for what others have, which can feel deeply uncomfortable. If you've always strived to be good or content, terrifying fears of abandonment, failure, rejection, or even success that have quietly dictated your life choices. Unacknowledged desires, sexual desires, desires for power, for recognition, for freedom, that you've deemed inappropriate or impossible. Past trauma, memories or emotional imprints of past hurts, abuse or neglect that you've walled off, but which now demand attention. This confrontation is excruciating. Imagine holding a mirror up to your soul and seeing not the polished image you present to the world, but every scar, every perceived flaw, every hidden monster. It feels like looking into the abyss, and initially, there's a terrifying fear that if you acknowledge these parts, they will consume you. You might resist fiercely, falling back into old patterns of denial or self-sabotage. But the pressure from the unconscious, from your very soul's yearning for wholeness, is relentless. The mirror metaphor is particularly powerful here. The dark night of the soul forces you to hold up a mirror to yourself. And in that reflection, you see not only the beautiful potential, but also the painful truths you've suppressed. This might involve recognizing your own destructive patterns, your toxic traits, your contributions to difficult relationships, or the ways you've unknowingly sabotaged your own happiness. It's not about self-blame, but about radical self-honesty. This is also where inner child work often begins to surface with intense clarity. The inner child holds the wounds and unmet needs from your early life. When you confront the shadow, you often find its roots in the pain of that vulnerable, unloved, or frightened inner child. The anger might be the unexpressed rage of a child who wasn't allowed to feel. The shame might be the burden carried by a child who was told they weren't enough. Healing the shadow often involves reaching back to that inner child, acknowledging their pain, and beginning to reparent them with the love, acceptance, and validation they never received. The paradox of the shadow is that by facing it, By integrating these disowned parts, you don't become worse. You become more whole. The energy bound up in repressing the shadow is immense. When you bring these parts into conscious awareness, you reclaim that energy. The fear might transform into caution, the anger into healthy assertiveness, the shame into self-compassion. This is why facing the shadow is not just about acknowledging darkness, but about liberating the hidden gold within it. It's about becoming truly, authentically yourself, not just the socially acceptable version. This awakening to the shadow is the turning point. It's the moment you stop waiting for rescue and begin the arduous, yet ultimately liberating work of self-reclamation. It's painful, it's messy, it's often confusing, but it is the first true step towards genuine healing and profound transformation. You are no longer running from yourself. You are finally, bravely, turning to face yourself completely. Having faced the terrifying landscape of your shadow, a profound internal shift begins to occur. This isn't a magical disappearance of pain, but a fundamental reorientation of your being. This is where Carl Jung's insights become not just theoretical concepts, but lived, visceral truths that illuminate the entire dark night process. You begin to understand why this journey is happening. Jung called this profound inner process individuation. It is the lifelong psychological journey of differentiating the personal self from the collective unconscious, integrating conscious and unconscious elements, and becoming a whole, unique individual. It's the process of becoming who you were truly meant to be, rather than the person society, your family, or your own conditioning told you to be. The dark night of the soul, you realize, is not a mistake. It is an essential, alchemical crucible in the individuation process. It is the universe forcing you to dismantle your false self so that your authentic self, your unique spirit, can finally emerge. In this phase, you shift from trying to fix yourself to understanding yourself. You realize that the pain was not pointless. It was the intense pressure needed to break. Open the hardened shell of your ego and allow the deeper wisdom of your psyche to surface. The internal shift is a movement from egocentric living, where your conscious personality is the primary driver, to self-centric living, where you begin to align with the self. What is the self? For Jung, the self is the totality of the psyche, both conscious and unconscious. It is the guiding principle, the blueprint of your unique potential, the spiritual center of your being. It's larger than the ego, encompassing both light and shadow, and it constantly strives for wholeness. The dark night is the self's way of calling you home, often through radical disruption, because the ego was too entrenched in its limited perspective. You start to develop a different relationship with your unconscious mind, no longer just a repository for forgotten memories or repressed desires. It becomes a wellspring of wisdom and guidance. You learn to listen to your dreams, understanding them as direct communications from the self, offering symbolic messages about your inner landscape and path forward. You begin to notice synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that defy logical explanation. These are not random. They are the universe, or the self, speaking to you, confirming your path, offering subtle nudges and validations that you are moving in the right direction, even amidst uncertainty. A book falls open to a specific page. A conversation with a stranger provides a profound insight. A seemingly chance encounter leads to a vital resource. These are the breadcrumbs the self leaves for you. The integration of the shadow becomes less about battling a monster and more about befriending a misunderstood part of yourself. You learn that aspects you once deemed bad, your anger, your fear, your vulnerability, hold valuable information and energy. Instead of suppressing your anger, you learn to channel it into setting healthy boundaries. Instead of succumbing to fear, you learn to identify its root message and move forward with courage. This is the alchemical process in action. The lead of your suffering is transmuted into the gold of wisdom and self-acceptance. The fire of the dark night purifies, leaving behind only what is essential. You begin to understand the concept of projections not just theoretically, but experientially. The irritation you feel towards someone's arrogance might be a reflection of your own unacknowledged desire for confidence or your own repressed need to be seen. The judgment you cast upon another's perceived weakness might be a projection of your own disowned vulnerability. By recognizing these projections, you reclaim parts of yourself that you have mistakenly placed outside of yourself, leading to greater self-awareness and healthier relationships. The shift is also deeply rooted in inner child healing. As you integrate your shadow, you naturally uncover the origins of many of your patterns and beliefs in your childhood experiences. You learn to identify the wounds, the unmet needs, and the false beliefs that your inner child absorbed. And now, as a conscious adult, you can begin to reparent that inner child, offering the unconditional love, validation, and safety that was missing. This isn't about blaming your parents. It's about taking responsibility for your own healing and nurturing the tender parts of yourself that still ache. This internal shift is a recognition of your own intrinsic worth. Independent of external validation, you start to derive a sense of security and purpose from within, guided by the wisdom of your deeper self, rather than by the shifting sands of external opinion or expectation. It's a profound coming home to your own sovereignty, a realization that the universe isn't happening to you, but for you, guiding you towards wholeness. You begin to trust the process, even when it's uncomfortable, because you understand its sacred purpose. This is the phase of the rebirth, or more accurately, emotional integration. It's vital to understand that the dark night of the soul isn't a one-and-done event, nor is the rebirth a sudden burst of eternal sunshine. It's a gradual, ongoing process of weaving together the light and shadow, conscious and unconscious, into a more complete and authentic self. The rebirth isn't the end of all suffering, but the birth of a fundamentally new relationship with suffering, with yourself, and with life itself. What emerges from this crucible is a deeper, more resilient, and compassionate version of yourself. You are no longer merely surviving. You are beginning to thrive from a place of profound authenticity. Authenticity, the mask has dissolved. You can no longer pretend to be someone you're not, nor do you desire to. There's a freedom in knowing and accepting your true self, imperfections and all. You speak your truth, not to offend, but to honor your internal landscape. Resilience. You've navigated the deepest abyss of your soul and emerged. This experience has forged an inner strength that no external challenge can truly break. You know you can endure hardship because you've survived the ultimate internal dismantling. Compassion. Having faced your own darkness, you develop profound compassion, not only for yourself but for others. You understand that everyone carries their own shadows, their own wounds. Judgment lessens and empathy grows. Purpose. A clearer sense of your unique purpose, often aligned with your deepest values and your newly integrated self, begins to emerge. This isn't necessarily a grand career change, but a deep knowing of how you want to show up in the world, what you want to contribute, and how you want to live. Emotional integration. This is perhaps the most significant shift. Instead of suppressing emotions, you learn to truly feel them. You sit with discomfort, recognizing it as a messenger, not an enemy. You allow sadness to flow, anger to surface healthily, joy to expand fully. You understand that emotions are transient, like waves, and you learn to ride them without being drowned by them. This is true emotional intelligence, not just understanding emotions intellectually, but experiencing and processing them somatically. The path of individuation continues, but now you walk it consciously, with a profound understanding of its cyclical nature. There will be other dark nights, smaller descents, moments of discomfort, but you now possess the inner tools and the profound trust in the process. You know that even in darkness, there is always the potential for growth and rebirth. Living from the self means a sense of groundedness, an inner compass that guides your decisions. You no longer constantly seek external validation, because your self-worth is rooted in who you are, not what you do or what others think of you. You find peace in the silence of your own company, because your inner world is no longer a chaotic battlefield but a sacred sanctuary. Practically, this integration might manifest as healthier relationships. You set clearer boundaries, communicate more authentically, and attract relationships that mirror your newfound wholeness. Meaningful work, your work, whatever it is, begins to align more closely with your values and purpose, bringing deeper satisfaction. Greater presence. You become more present in your daily life, savoring simple moments, connected to the here and now. Self-care as a priority. You understand that nurturing your inner world is not selfish, but essential for your well-being and your capacity to engage with the world. This includes listening to your body, honoring your energy levels, and engaging in practices that nourish your soul. The gift of the dark night of the soul is profound wisdom, depth, and a connection to something far greater than your individual ego. It is the experience that cracks you open, not to break you, but to reveal the luminous core of your being. You become a guide for others, not through intellectual knowing alone, but through embodied experience. You carry the scars of your journey, but they are transformed into sacred tattoos, symbols of your resilience, your transformation, and your enduring spirit. You are not fixed. You are integrated. You are not healed in the sense of being without pain, but healed in the sense of becoming whole, complete, and utterly alive. My friends, if you are walking through your own dark night of the soul, know this: you are not alone. This is a profound, sacred journey, and it is happening for you, not to you. It is the universe's way of calling you into deeper alignment with your authentic self, into the wholeness that Carl Jung illuminated so beautifully. The breakdown, the search, the terrifying confrontation with your shadow, the internal shift, and the eventual rebirth. Each phase is a vital step in your unique individuation process. Trust the unraveling, for it is making space for an infinitely more authentic and vibrant you. Embrace the silence, for it holds the whispers of your soul. I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. Have you experienced a dark night? What insights or challenges have you encountered? Your experiences can be a guiding light for others on this path. If this journey resonated with you, please consider subscribing to Esoteric Nexus for more explorations into the depths of the psyche and the path of spiritual awakening. And if you're ready to dive even deeper into the specific work of healing these core wounds, I highly recommend watching our next video, Shadow Work, Embracing Your Full Self. Thank you for being here, for your courage, and for your willingness to journey into the heart of transformation. Until next time, keep seeking, keep feeling, and keep becoming the magnificent soul you are meant to be.